Hey, welcome to Crafty Music Tips. This is part 3 in this creating your own song and music video series. We're going to talk about recording. Now, there's 3 main parts of the recording process. You've got pre-production, which is like your planning, all of your preparation. You've got the production, which is the physical act of recording. And then you've got your third part, which is the post-production, which is all of your editing and mixing and stuff. Now, in this video, we're mainly going to be talking about production, but we'll also have a quick look at pre-production. Pre-production, the planning stages, it's so easy to overlook, and yet in many ways it's the most important stage, because if you've got a really good rock-solid plan, then everything will just go so much smoother afterwards. I guess that's just like life, isn't it? So with the recording process, it's really important to plan. What would you be planning? If you've never done any recording before, perhaps maybe just diving right in and then just sort of exploring, seeing what happens is the way to go. But if you have done recording before, have a think. What are important things to plan? Now, there's 3 main production styles or types. You could have like a raw sounding recording, or it could be kind of slick but not too produced, or super produced. And being really clear on what type of production style you're after is going to help decide a bunch of the other considerations.
3, oh, it's the magic number. Yeah, it is.
Now, I've just noticed how many times that I'm showing these 3 fingers in this part 3 video. So in the pre-production stage, you need to have basically a good idea on these 3 particular elements, which is how long you have to record, how you're going to do the recording, and what order you're going to be recording your different parts. Now, some other things to consider would be, what room would you be recording in, or would you be recording outdoors? If you're not aware, the surroundings that you're recording in are going to play a big part. So for instance, think about being in a big hall and you clap, as opposed to being in a small room. Like in this room here, I've got myself a bunch of acoustic treatment. So I'm trying to deaden it down a little bit. It just means that there's a lot less character that I have to mix out potentially. Now, one of the things that you'll have to figure out is where that you're going to record. Like for instance, your room actually does play a big part in the sound capturing. So for instance, let's say you recorded in a bathroom compared to, say, a bedroom. They're going to sound really different. Figuring out what type of sound you want to have is really important. Now, depending on what you're recording, the way you're going to capture the sound is something to consider. For instance, are you going to be using a microphone, or are you going to plug straight in? And once you know which method it'll be, how are you going to get the sound into your recording device? What is your recording device? So then once you've got that stuff sorted, then it's a matter of getting good gain staging. What that means is, if I have too much input gain, well, then it's going to start to distort like that. But then if I don't have enough, well, then it won't be loud enough. So figuring out what's the most optimum of your gain, which is your input. So figuring how much gain you need is basically how much input level that you need going into your recording system. Okay, so you should be ready to press record now. But what are you going to be listening back to them on? Is it like a set of headphones? Are they really good quality, or are they cheap? Do you have a good set of speakers? So in many ways, it doesn't really matter exactly what you're going to be listening back to. It doesn't really matter, if it's great quality headphones or speakers or not, because if you have something that's called a reference, a sound reference, something that you're going to listen to and you go, okay, well, I really like the quality of that professional recording, so I'm going to do my best to make it sound something like that. Then no matter what it is that you're referencing on, if you're always A-Bing with your recording with the really good recording, well, then the chances are that you'll be able to just do a few little tweaks in order to be able to get your sounding more and more like what you're referencing. Now, if any of what I've just mentioned is quite new to you, because there's like an area of which that you're inexperienced with, well, just always remember, take the time to test stuff out. Unless, of course, you've got a super urgent deadline, you want to just get it done as fast as you can. But taking the time to test means that your recording will probably be better overall as a result of what you've been mucking around with. And, you'll be learning at the same time. Now, it's really easy to get lost in all of the technical aspects of recording, but the main thing is that you are capturing a performance. Now, capturing is secondary to the performance. Now, if you don't have the best quality capturing of a really good performance, that's okay, because you've got a really good performance and you can always tweak sounds later. But what you can't do is you can't make a performance better no matter how good the microphone is or the instrument quality is. Now, I've mentioned a lot of things in this video already so far, but if I was gonna say what would the most important thing be, I would say this: don't stress. There's a thing called red light fever. It's where the red light's on, oh my God, it's recording, and you just tense up. But it can be a really fun process if you just focus on enjoying it, and if you're in a good frame of mind, then a better performance is going to come through. So don't stress, but just rather than thinking, okay, try not to stress, just focus on, I'm just going to enjoy this moment right now and let's just see what happens.
Do you feel stressed, Jen? Jen, look at that!
All right, there you go. Heaps of recording tips. Now, this is part 3 in a series. The first part was writing a song or choosing a cover song. The second was how to arrange whatever the song is. And so we're ready to record it now. Now, I've got an example that I recently wrote and recorded myself. It's a bit of a wishing you a Merry Christmas type of thing because it was just recently Christmas and so it was very relevant at the time. Let's just have a quick listen to it.
Don't know what your year was like. I don't care if you're naughty or nice, or if you hear the same words twice. I hope that you have a very legendary Christmas.
Okay, so there you go. Are you feeling kind of merry now? So I had to go through all of the things that I mentioned in the video earlier, but it needed to be ready a few days before Christmas so that I could bang out a video. Now, the equipment that I use is a selection of a few different microphones, and sometimes I like to just plug straight in. And so what I'm plugging into is my Audient ID22 interface, and I'm using Logic Pro. Now, the electric guitars and bass, I just plug straight in, and I just use the amp simulators that come with Logic. And the organ sound was just done with a MIDI keyboard, and the drums was just a drum loop. And that's how I started my whole process, is I just tried to find a drum loop that I'd be able to get away with, because I can play drums, but in order to mic up a whole drum kit and then mix all of the different bits, oh God, it would just have taken ages. And this definitely took some time as well, but I was definitely happy to just go with the benefits of saving a bit of time and hassle. So we'll just have a listen to the drum loop. Oh, that was a drum fill. So yeah, it's basically just a number of bars of a drummer playing a shuffle beat, and then every so often he'd hit a crash or he'd do a fill. So I just had to find the right bits that I wanted and put them in the right spot. Some of the song was a normal groove, whereas sometimes I wanted it in half time. Yeah. Now, so the reason why I chose to start with a drum loop is because I prefer as a guitarist playing along to drums than just a static dink, 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 click. So here's one of the guitars. So my process was basically I just got my Gibson Firebird out. The reason why is because that's just my favorite sounding guitar when it's plugged straight in using the amp sims. And then I just had a look through all of these different presets and just found my favorite and then tweaked it from there. So I chose Spinning Indie, and yeah, sounded pretty cool. Now this is the other guitar. So what that was the same guitar plugged into a different channel with a different preset. So both of them together sound like this. Yeah. All right, so at that point I had a drum loop and a couple of guitars. Sounded pretty empty in the bottom end though. So I got out my Fender Jazz and plugged it straight in and just used the amp simulator. This is what the amp simulator looks like with the bass. I love it. It's just like kind of like a old Ampeg. And yeah, so it sounded like this. So with the guitars, sounds like this. And with the drums. So at that point I figured, well, I've got myself a bassist, which I could sing on top of. This is what my first vocal take was like.
I don't know what your year was like. I don't care if you're naughty or nice.
So one of the things that I like to do, especially for a chorus, that was the chorus by the way, is I like to double track. So basically it's just singing exactly the same thing again.
I don't know what your year was like. I don't care if you're naughty or nice.
Now, it's one of the oldest tricks in the book, doing double tracking, especially for adding it in a chorus. It just adds extra body to your vocal sound. Now, so double tracking is great, but also doing two separate things with the same instrument is kind of cool. This is what I did with the trumpet. Now, I remember feeling that the first pre-chorus was a bit empty, so we'll have a listen to it without the banjo.
All you wanted to achieve. Well, this year's about to leave. There's not much time left.
It's all right, but I felt like there's a bit of a gap there. I could fill it up with something. And yeah, so I just felt like this banjo would really suit there. It's kind of doing like a call and response. It's sort of responding to what the singer, me, is doing. Here's what it sounds like all together.
All you wanted to achieve. Well, this year's about to leave.
So even though I had the double tracking of the vocal, I decided the chorus needed a little extra push. So I chucked in my MIDI keyboard and found this dirty fifth preset. This is what it sounded like. Pretty weird on its own, and so if I take it out of the chorus, it sounds like this.
It was like, I don't care if you're naughty or nice.
Here's with it in.
It was like, I don't care if you're naughty or nice.
Can you tell the difference? I kind of can't, but it just gives it a little something. It's subtle, but it's there. All right, that's all of the main things that I physically recorded. There were a few extra sound effects that I chucked in. Yeah, so Logic has a bunch of options inside. You just click up here and you go down and click on sound effects. So if you want an alarm clock bell, maybe you want aliens. Yeah, look, whatever sound effects take your fancy. Yeah, so I had a number of effects. We'll just go through a few of them. This one here, so this was a cricket noise that I added to a spot where it's kind of like, oh, is the song finished? What's happening?
I don't know what you get.
Just crickets on its own wasn't enough. So I had a bunch of these. So what's this? This is that's pretty cool. And then, yeah, and it sounded like there was some tape rewinding in there. That was that. So then, yeah, so you put them all together.
I don't know what your year was like.
Without the sound effects in that section, it'd sound like this.
I don't know what your year was like.
And, you know, that could have been fine as well. That breath noise sounded a little bit abrupt. I'd have to chuck a fade on that in the editing process. So yeah, perhaps without any of those sound effects, it would have sounded good. I don't know. I just decided, well, I've got those sound effects there and I'll try and use them tastefully. Now, you may say, is that really a part of the recording process though? Yeah, I guess maybe that would be the editing process, which, check it out, is going to be the next part 4 in this series. I'll get right into how you edit once you've recorded, and then once you've edited everything, then how you mix as well. So the two completely different processes, very important. Okay, so there you have it. There's a bunch of things that I did in my recording process and a bunch of things that you can utilize in your recording process. Let's just recap. So you've got those 3 Ps, the pre-production, production, and post-production stages in regards to recording. We just went through the first 2 in this video. So the planning part of it is so important. You've got so many things that you can plan to just make your job easier. You've got a bunch of different microphones that you could choose. You could also just plug straight in if you want. How the signal will be captured is something to consider. And don't forget to reference. Having a reference is going to give you a good sound direction. Also, don't rush the process. Don't get stressed out as well. Just remember that, like, you got to have some fun with it. And when you do that, then you'll probably get yourself a better sounding performance, which is what you want.
Every time we say goodbye, I die a little.
All right, I hope this video was helpful for you. My name is Crafty, and if you haven't already done so, follow Crafty Music Tips on a bunch of these social media platforms. Also, while I'm here, can I offer you a free gift? It's called Actually, How Good Are You? It's a free ebook download, which will just give you all of the steps to figure out, well, where am I at on my musical journey right now, and where is it that I want to go? Doesn't matter what age you are, doesn't matter what experience that you've had, it's just going to give you everything that you need to be able to figure it all out yourself. So hope that sounds helpful for you. I'll leave a link below. So next up, as I said, is the post-production elements of the recording process. My name's Crafty. I'll see you in that video or any other music tips related thing online really soon. Take care. Keep rocking. I'll see you soon.